Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. Not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi, folks. Welcome back to Crisco's Corner from PJ Media. You see, no ads, exclusive reporting. If you can, throw them a few bucks. This is a good site for conservative people. And sometimes they're more sarcastic than I am, so I'm going to have to up my game a little bit. Let's read on. Parler just flipped big tech's January 6th conspiracy theory on its head. And days after the Capitol riot on January 6th, 2021, big tech moved against a conservative alternative social media platform, Parler, based on the premise that the rioters had used Parler to plan the attack on the Capitol and that Parler had failed in its responsibility to prevent such coordination. All those posts, it's tough, but we'll still go along with the story so far. Based on this narrative, Apple and Google removed Parler from their app stores, and Amazon removed Parler's internet hosting. Yet on Thursday, Parler flipped the narrative on its head. It's amazing how these guys coordinate without coordinating. They all throw off one, and all of a sudden, all the rest follow suit. These guys all know each other. They're all in Silicon Valley. A lot of the VPs and a lot of the big shots in these companies are probably friends. Or they know each other for a long, long time. And then you'll see that on Patreon and other sites that raise funds for certain channels and certain causes. Or one will say Patreon will throw you off. And then you go to the next one, that one does, and the next one does it. Well, supposedly it wasn't coordinated. It was just a coincidence. Oh, we know that's BS. That's against the law, by the way. Probably on the RICO statute, but, I digress. On Thursday, Parler sent a response to the House Committee on Oversight and Reform's request for documents regarding the riot. The company explained in a press release. In that response, Parler revealed they had provocatively developed an open line of communication with the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the fall of 2020 and referred violent content and incitement from Parler's platform over 50 times before the January 6th. Parler also warned at the FBI about specific threats of violence being planned for the events at the Capitol on January 6th. Oh, you mean they did what they're supposed to do? The letter details efforts Parler's to flag and remove unlawful speech from his platform that was not protected by the First Amendment. It also notes that of the 270 charging documents filed by the Department of Justice, 80% of social media references involve big tech platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Only 5% referred to Parler. Wow, that's another wah. I think what happened, I think Facebook, Twitter, and a lot of other social media monsters panicked. Parler was gaining huge ground, as the president would say, or I should say former President Trump, huge. It was huge. And they panicked. And they used their power, supposedly under the law, to silence their opposition, or there should be their competition, more likely. It's so obvious that a 2-year-old could figure it out. Big tech wants to silence conservatives. Help us fight back. Yeah. The letter goes on to explain that Parler accumulated over 15 million users by January 2021, and its app was the most downloaded app at the Apple App Store and the Google US Play Store on January 8th, 2 days after the so-called insurrection. It's a few hundred goofballs that acted really stupid. Insurrection. The company's press release connected the dots. Big tech rivals Facebook and Twitter saw Parler as a viable threat and ganged up with Amazon and others to deplatform and destroy the company. Absolutely right. Big Tech has been effectively scapegoating Parler for the riots at the Capitol, but Parler's revelations today show that the company acted responsibly to try and stop the violence at the Capitol on January 6th, the press release concluded. You know, this is only speculation on my part. I'm not speaking for any organization or any group of people or just myself. But, you know, I'm 64, so it's kind of like the Watergate thing with all the president's men. Not all the facts will come out until many, many years later. But there's a lot of unrefrigerated fish here, folks. There seemed to be a lot of warning from the tiny, tiny, tiny percent of the almost 400,000 people. We're talking about less than 1,000 people out of 400,000. And yet the DOJ and the FBI have put tremendous amounts of time and resources into going after people just at the rally. How many people have lost their jobs, or their spouse has lost their jobs, or their kids, or their son-in-law, because they were there at a political rally doing nothing unlawful except for exercising their rights? It's insane. It's insane. I'm not trying to make a comparison, but I won't say it outright directly, but we know from history, authoritarian governments and regimes always has to have a scapegoat or a common enemy to keep them together. You pretty much know the premise of what I'm referring to. In one email, Parler forwarded a message from a user who called for an armed force of American patriots, 150,000 prepared to react to the congressional events of January 6th and follow what the Declaration of Independence has dictated to do in situations of absolute despotism. One more from the same account, more where this came from. Concerned about Wednesday, a Parler employee wrote to an FBI contact on January 2nd, the Saturday before the events of Wednesday, January 6th. You see, most of you, if not all of you, have seen the videos. And the few hundred people that were tugging with law enforcement at the barriers they put up, President Trump was still giving his speech. It wasn't like he said, everybody storm the Bastille. Blah, blah. Well, I would have wanted the guy in jail too, but it didn't happen that way. They did it while he was still talking. And then you noticed, looks like law enforcement just gave up. They opened the barriers and let him in. I can't even tell you how many countless videos we've seen where people are coming in and law enforcement and security there are just standing there watching. There's one where they shoot two guys in the House chamber. One is sitting in front of the speaker's table, and the security guy, a rent-a-cop, not a real cop, says, "You're bleeding, guys." "I'm okay." And then the one guy, the crazy, Indian guy, whatever the hell they call him, is sitting at the desk of the speaker. He says, "Please, guys, don't destroy this place. This place is sacrosanct." They go, "Don't worry, dude. We won't break anything." He goes, "Okay," and he leaves. There's something really weird going on here. I didn't say that they were in charge of the so-called insurrection, but I'll tell you, they didn't do a hell of a lot to keep the security up to stop it. I mean, you got to be kidding me. It's almost as if they knew it was coming and allowed it to happen for political gain. I can't say that's that far-fetched. That's not a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. As, what's his name, Rahm Emanuel said during an old saying that when COVID came out, and now with this insurrection, January 6th, and these asshats that did something stupid, he said, never let a crisis go to waste. And boy, I'll tell you, they certainly haven't. And they took over because of COVID, and now a lot of people's rights are being stripped. Authoritarian governments coming in little by little. Voting rights are being changed. Voting laws are being changed. Surveillance, personal freedoms are being taken away because of the so-called insurrection. I got to give the Democrats credit. They played this one beautifully. But the American people in this republic has lost. Let's read on. Contrary to the big tech narrative, Parler did its due diligence and reported threats of violence to the FBI in advance of the Capitol riot. These actions, coupled with the fact that Parler only appeared in 5% of the DOJ's charging documents, completely flips the big tech narrative on its head. The Capitol rioters did coordinate on Parler in part, but they also did so in other social media platforms. Like I said, the big tech guys had their monopolies, and all of a sudden they saw competition coming and they panicked, and they used this as an excuse. Parler was not negligent in its duty to remove incitements to violence, as Amazon, Apple, and Google claim. Of course not. In fact, they removed those incitements and alerted the FBI about them. Parler may not have been perfect in this regard, but the company had been proactive before the Capitol riot. Internet Accountability Project President Michael Davis summed up the situation well. When Twitter targets conservatives, including President Trump, big tech shills tell us to build our own Twitter, so Parler did. Then, trillion-dollar monopolists Google and Apple, running their duopoly cartel, kicked Parler out of the app stores. Then trillion-dollar monopolist Amazon kicked Parler off the internet, Davis recounted. The stated reason for Google, Amazon, and Apple's anti-competitive conspiracy was that Parler promoted the violence of the January 6th protests at the Capitol. But we learned today this was a bogus, pretextual excuse by $3 trillion big tech monopolists Google, Apple, and Amazon to kill a competitor of Twitter, another big tech monopolist. Davis declared, indeed, we now know that in the days and weeks leading up to January 6th, Parler made over 50 referrals of violence content to the FBI, including specific threats of violence being planned at the Capitol. Now we know the truth, which is big tech used Parler as a scapegoat to destroy a startup company that was a viable threat to their social media dominance, the IAP president concluded. You know what? That's exactly right. You deserve a round of applause. They're absolutely right. They broke the law. They broke the law in their conspiracy. It's a RICO. I believe it's under the RICO statute. But unfortunately, the DOJ is now run by the Biden administration. Well, the people that are running the Biden administration, I should say. The same DOJ, by the way, that had admitted, Yale University admitted to discriminated against Asian Americans. The DOJ was investigating them, but then when they switched administrations, the DOJ dropped it. So Yale will be off the hook. Even though they admitted they discriminated against Asian Americans, the DOJ dropped its case. When you can't really have that much confidence in your federal law enforcement, that's not healthy for the country. While Parler withdrew its original January federal lawsuit against Amazon, filed a new lawsuit in Washington State Court alleging defamation and breach of contract. Former President Donald Trump has announced he will launch his own social media platform, which will apparently compete with Twitter and Facebook, as well as conservative alternatives like Gab and Parler. I saw this coming. I really, honestly, didn't think they would do that to Parler. I really don't. Now, for those of you that watch my channel, I'm right in the middle of packing up everything in my store here and selling what I can and taking the fixtures and other things and storing them and bringing the rest to my house. But I'm going to be ramping up the channel quite a bit. I'm going to get some new equipment, and I'm going to be going out on other social media platforms, i.e. Parler is going to be my number one. In fact, here I have a list. I'm going to try Daily Motion, DTube, Rumble, BitChute, Library, Gabs, Minds, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But the two I'm going to really push besides YouTube is Parler and MeWe. I'm basically, I would say 3/4 of my videos here are shadow banned. I did some research, and then if you go to your channel and all your list of videos, if you hold the cursor over the video, if you don't see a preview, chances are that video is shadow banned. So I'll be branching out to Parler as well soon, the next couple of months, and other social platforms. Maybe even someday my own website, we'll have to see. But good for them. But you know what? Nobody will do anything because the progressives and the leftists run the Department of Justice and the FBI. Where's the antitrust suits? Where are they? They all conspired to get rid of a potential competitor. That is against the law. Period. We'll have to see. And I like the fact that they withdraw their lawsuit and now are going after the defamation and breach of contract. Now, I haven't been on Parler in a while, but I will be shortly. I hope they do better than last time and they bury these SOBs and other platforms come up. Maybe even President Trump will do his own. The way he's talking, I think he likes giving out press releases more than his tweets because he says they're a lot cleaner, a lot more concise, and they get a lot more ground. He doesn't spend half his day goofing around on Twitter. He was on Laura Ingraham tonight talking about that, and he laughed. But these guys went too far. I really don't. I still can't believe. And then Amazon took them off the web service, AWS. I couldn't believe it when it happened. So we're going to have to see what happens in the end. But as we all know, every single huge company that's ever been a monopoly or close to one has always crumbled and destroyed itself. There is now one monopoly in this country that has stood the test of time. For those of you, I'll say that Walmart, for example, someday will be in the toilet and will close hundreds, if not thousands of stores. And those of you that laugh, I'm not going to give you the answer. Put it in the comments below. The biggest retailer in the entire United States, still to this day, they had the most retail locations of any place, any company, any business in the United States in its history is now basically trash. They had more locations than Walmart, and they're now in the toilet and have filed for bankruptcy long ago. Can you remember who they were? And if you can't, maybe I'll pin the answer in a few weeks, a few days, because nobody can do this and get away with it. There's always somebody right behind you waiting to take your spot. And Twitter was failing before Donald Trump. Don't forget that. So good for Parler. Good for these new companies. I hope they make out well. There's a lot of money to be made in this, and there's a lot of money to be invested. We'll see what happens. But I'm very optimistic about social media in the future. But right now, it's just a pile of crap. And until next time, folks, goodbye and good luck.